What's going on, guys? This is Empty Box, and today we're going to be talking about a bit of sim racing news. As I'm sure many of you guys have already heard, Assetto Corsa is coming to the consoles, the PlayStation 4 and the Xbox One, which is actually the third Xbox, but we still call it the Xbox One. Of course, given the nature of this news, that means that it's something that I feel like I'm going to go ahead and chime in on. You know, I'm an opinionated guy. I play these games a lot. I've had Assetto Corsa since day one of its early access release. Day one since its technology preview. Myself, like a bunch of you guys, have been watching Assetto Corsa like a hawk over the years because it is something that's interesting. It's something exciting. It's another option within our small little segment that is sim racing. Plus the fact that I'm an opinionated guy should make this a fun topic, and I'm sure a lot of you guys will want to hear what I have to say on that anyways, as well as the fact that I just find some of the reaction I've already seen absolutely hilarious. For example, the good old PC Master Race guy who's all like, they got our Assetto Corsa, they're taking our Assetto Corsa and putting it on the consoles. The consoles! What are you doing, Kunos? You put the game on the consoles, no! We'll talk about that guy a little bit later on, because a lot of his fear is mostly found in the fact that, well, there's still a lot of things to be fixed with the game. So, yeah, we'll talk about that a little bit later. And then you also have the guy who's all like, just totally mind blown. I don't even know how to describe this guy, but just the mere fact that there's going to be a console version of this game, it just blows his mind, because he's all like, first of all, the game can't be a sim no matter what, because it's going to be on consoles. You can't have a sim on consoles. That's impossible, even though the fact is that if you look at the minimum requirements for Assetto Corsa, which, mind you, minimum requirements never yield a optimal gameplay experience, but you look at the minimal requirements, the current generation consoles, the PS4, the Xbox One, would be powerful enough to play this game. So the whole old logic that the consoles don't have enough power to run the physics into stuff is pretty much thrown out the window. In fact, there's not really a sim out there that I would say is demanding enough on PC that I look at it and say, oh, well, the consoles just clearly don't have enough power to run the game from a physics standpoint, which is typically the whole crux of the issue for that guy. And because I often hear this stupid, twisted logic, if you could even call it that, from within the iRacing and rFactor 2 communities, using it as some sort of justification or betterment that, well, our sim requires a PC because it's more beefy in physics and stuffs. Go ahead and take a look at the minimum requirements for iRacing and rFactor 2, and you will find that they are actually quite similar to the minimum requirements of Assetto Corsa. So quite clearly, there's not this magical, the consoles can't run it because the physics and stuff, because these games are built to run on PCs that are comparatively ancient. Take a look at some easy examples. How long did it take rFactor 2 to get a 64-bit executable? The thing that you actually run the game with. It took a while. It took a very long time within computer terms. 64-bit systems have been the norm for a while, but it still took a good bit of time to actually make use of that technology within rFactor 2. You look at iRacing, for example. If you're a member of that community over there, it's absolutely no secret that the whole upgrade to DirectX 11 that they have planned is kind of scary for a lot of people over there who are very worried about whether or not they're going to be able to continue to play that game once that update hits. You saw with both iRacing and rFactor 2, when both titles dropped support for Windows XP, an operating system that was well over a decade old and was having support dropped by Microsoft, you still saw people who were running Windows XP. How strong do you think a system is that is running Windows XP? Let's be real here. The current crop of consoles isn't as strong as a gaming PC, but I'm pretty sure both the PS4 and the Xbox One can blow the doors off of a system that was built in 2006. It's just how computers work. Okay, so hopefully by now you understand that the whole consoles can't run Sims because consoles can't run Sims logic is absolutely stupid. It makes no sense at all. And I didn't even have to mention the R Factor 1 platform, which was built in the early 2000s, for crying out loud. The only reason that there's not a console version of that platform running out there right now is because nobody's actually bothered to do it. There's no questions that one of the current crop of consoles could easily run, for example, GameStop Car Extreme. It just has to be done. It hasn't been done, so that's why it hasn't existed. Just because it doesn't exist doesn't mean it can't. Okay, on to the next one. And then you have the guy who's all like, well, that's impossible because you can't play a sim on controllers and things like that. Which, okay, yeah, driving with the controller is definitely not ideal by any means. I've equated the experience to flying a 747 with a spatula. It doesn't make any sense at all, but, you know, some people do it, and yes, it can be done. I mean, just because, again, it isn't done in the real world doesn't mean that it couldn't be done, even though it would be less than optimal, but that doesn't change anything. For example, the physics don't change because you're using a controller. Yeah. Go back to the old days when the car was first invented and they had the tiller for steering. Like, totally different experience. It's not what we're accustomed to, but were those cars any less cars because they had tillers rather than steering wheels? And then there is also the fact that it is no longer 2002. Take a look at your steering wheel and your pedals. Chances are if you have a set of these, it's probably from Logitech, Thrustmaster, or Fanatec. And you know what? Chances are it also works on a console. The exact same piece of equipment probably works on one of the consoles out there. For example, the Logitech Driving Force GT. Over the years, this is the steering wheel that I have recommended the most because it is cheap and it works well, and it's one of the most popular steering wheels within PC sim racing as a whole. It was developed for consoles. It was developed to be the official steering wheel of Gran Turismo. The Thrustmaster T500 RS was developed as the Gran Turismo steering wheel. The Fanatec CSR and CSR Elite developed to be the steering wheel of Forza. The Thrustmaster TX, designed to work on the Xbox One specifically. The T300 from Thrustmaster, PS4. Why are these products being created? Well, here's your easy answer. Because they actually sell. Because console gamers, even though a lot of the PC guys want to look at them and be like, you play console, are buying the exact same hardware. It's not uncommon for a console player to have a steering wheel and pedal set. It's no longer weird. It's no longer awkward. This is not 2002 where every single person on consoles is playing with a controller, or alternatively one of those cheapo Mad Cat steering wheels that are absolutely god-awful horrendous to the point where you should really just go play with the controller because it's just going to be a lot better for you. But I mean, seriously, it's just stupid logic, again. And then there's also the guy who's all like, but, you know, the console gamers, they don't want to sim. You know, they don't care about realism. And I'll say this. As somebody who makes these videos, as someone who does YouTube videos, I see a lot of people who don't even know about our community, I guess you could say. You know, to them, realism stops at Gran Turismo and Forza because that's all they know. They don't know there's something more. Not because they don't want something more, in many cases, but simply because they just don't know. And there's nothing wrong with that. You don't know what you don't know until you know what you didn't know. But sort of coming full circle now, you know, there's obviously the upside of more revenue, another revenue stream for Kunos, which hopefully would mean more sales, more profits, meaning the ability to hire more staff, meaning a bigger studio that can do more things rather than being limited by the fact that they have like 10 people at most working on this game. There's that upside that I think everybody, regardless of their allegiances, can see, so I really don't need to spend too much time explaining that. But here's where it comes back to that first guy. You know, the guy who hates it just because it means that it's going to consoles, which means that the PC game is just going to fall down the crapper. Assetto Corsa, as it is right now, if it was released on the consoles, would be a total and absolute failure. The game would not succeed on the consoles at all. The offline experience is pretty dang terrible. You know, the AI is definitely very, very, very not that good. And I think most of us would agree with that. That is not a controversial statement at all. You know, the features, the racing features itself aren't really fully polished to the level that needs to be. The career mode is just an absolute joke. If the game's going to succeed on the console platform, it's going to need to do those things and do those things well. This isn't even to mention the multiplayer improvements that need to happen to make it a more optimized and streamlined experience, because you know the way that the lobby systems and servers are arranged right now would go down absolutely wonderfully, there's a lot of sarcasm there, on consoles. The way I see it, one of two things can happen. First of all, if the game is released more or less as is with some minor updating but not really substantial fixes and improvements, you know, for example with the AI the way it is now, more or less, I don't see this as a game that could pull away a lot of drivers from Gran Turismo, from Forza, from Project Cars to Assetto Corsa on consoles, in which case it would be a lot of wasted money for something that may or may not turn an actual sizable profit to make it worth developing. In which case, well, that's how marketplaces work, capitalism and things like that, you know, risk reward. Sometimes you have to spend money to make money, sometimes it works out for you, sometimes it doesn't. Or alternatively, over the course of developing the console versions of the game, improvements will be made, and it only stands to reason that those improvements would also come to the PC version of the game. Because why wouldn't they? I mean, you already have a successful title going on the PC platform if you're Kunos. Why wouldn't you go ahead and test out those fixes and improvements on the PC side of things with the game that's already there to make sure that the community is actually positive and happy with them? You know, why wouldn't you? Why would you not want to have an even better game on the PC than what already exists? I mean, is this crazy? So there you go. That's my thoughts on a console version of Assetto Corsa. And keep in mind, this is coming from somebody playing on PC, somebody who doesn't have a PlayStation 4 or an Xbox One and has absolutely no reason to get one of those platforms now that Metal Gear Solid 5 is coming to PC, which was the one and only game I was actually interested in on consoles. So by no means is this justification or me trying to spin away for me to want to buy a console or anything like that, because it ain't happening until there's actually a verifiable good reason. Because at the end of the day, the PC version of the game is still going to be superior here in Assetto Corsa, especially seeing how the fact is that it already supports mods. I don't see that happening with the console version of the game. Not to mention improved frame rates, loading times, and more anti-aliasing, better graphics, and all the PC things, because PCs are better than consoles. Oh goodness, I just started that debate. So hope you guys enjoyed. Bye.